This is Research Like a Pro, episode 209, Pennsylvania Germans, part 3, Land. Welcome to Research Like a Pro, a genealogy podcast about taking your research to the next level, hosted by Nicole Dyer and Diana Elder, Accredited Genealogist Professional. Diana and Nicole are the mother-daughter team at FamilyLocket.com and the authors of Research Like a Pro, a genealogist guide. With Robin Worthland, they also co-authored the companion volume, Research Like a Pro with DNA. Join Diana and Nicole as they discuss how to stay organized, make progress in their research, and solve difficult cases. Let's go! Hello, everybody. Welcome to Research Like a Pro today.
Hi, Nicole. How are you doing today?
Hi, Mom. I'm doing good. I've just been studying genealogy standards a lot lately. It was fun the other day having our conversation about what is the best way to do future research suggestions at the end of a report. And there's a lot of different things to put at the end of a report about what could be done next. And I was just noticing that one of the ways that it was done in the ProGen example in the manual professional genealogy is having very specific source citations saying what you would search next. And then, sometimes we put in there more vague ideas like research this person or do a search of marriages. And best practice, we always try to put in something specific, right?
We do. It really helps because then if they're specific, they can become part of your research plan for the next phase of research. Having those all ready to go for another phase is great.
One thing I really like to do with that as well is make sure I mention it in the report body, like a call out to the future research suggestions section, and we will need to research this person who was located in this record in further sessions of research. And then there's kind of that link between the report and then that ending section that has all those things that you called out during the report that you were going to do.
Right. That works really well. Well, let's get going on our episode for today. We have got Alice back, and we're excited to be talking more about Pennsylvania Germans. In the first post of this series, one of the reasons our Pennsylvania Germans left their homeland and came to America was the promise of land. Letters and tracts that told of Pennsylvania's virtues were widely distributed in Germany, and friendly and family members shared this with one another. So escaping the troubles of their homeland to go somewhere like Pennsylvania was very appealing to our ancestors. Because the abundance of land was on their minds, many of them sought land ownership as soon as they were able.
Yeah, let's start off with just hearing a little bit about the land acquisition process.
Okay, first I think it's good to just review a little bit of history about Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania started out as a proprietary colony, which means it was owned independently of government control, and it was owned by William Penn. His father had received the land. The King of England had owed some land to the family, and so it came into the Penn family, and William Penn and his sons owned and operated their own land company in Pennsylvania for a lot of years. Then, after the Revolutionary War, Pennsylvania became a state land state, which means the state government was in charge of distributing the government-owned land. But a lot of the processes and procedures that the Penns had set up just remained in place at this time. So we have kind of four different eras. There's the pre-Penn land settlement that was prior to 1682. Then when the Penns came onto the scene from 1682 to 1732, that was the proprietorship of William Penn. Then starting in 1732 and going through 1776, it was the proprietorship of his sons, William Penn's heirs. And then beginning in 1776 through today, basically the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania was who controlled the land distribution. So when someone acquired land from the Penn proprietorship, they received what was known as the first title to the land. First title to Pennsylvania land was usually acquired in a 5-step process. I'll review the process, but it's really important to know that the person who initially applied for the land warrant could sell the rights to that land anytime during the process. So the person who got the warrant may not be the person who ended up with the patent at the end of the process. So that's something to keep in mind as you're researching. But the 5 steps are: first, there was an application. So the person would request the land and a certain amount of land in a particular place. Then a warrant was issued, and that was an order to survey the land, and that was written by the proprietors. And the warrant will restate the amount of land and the location that was requested in the application. And then next, you would have a survey. So that's the process of someone going out to the land and measuring it and marking it. And then they draw a tract diagram. And then the survey is returned. And the return of survey is a written statement combining the warrant and the survey. And it signifies that the purchase price and all fees have been paid. And then finally, you get a patent. And that's the final deed from the proprietor or the state that passes the ownership of that tract of land to its purchaser, known as the patentee.
That's a great process there. And it's really helpful to understand that they could sell the rights to that land at any point along the way. It could transfer to someone else.
Yes.
So, what is the recommended research methodology?
So you can find information that's genealogically significant in the application, the warrant, the survey, and the patent. So you want to find all of those records. And we're lucky with Pennsylvania land records because they can be accessed digitally for free through the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission. And you can also find them at Family Search and Ancestry. So there are digital copies of records found in these different places. Some are in one place and some are in another place. So it's nice to kind of walk through the process. So I'll just kind of tell you how to go about doing this. So, first of all, obviously, you need to identify your ancestor's name. And last time we talked about name variations and naming patterns. So just think of variant spellings or the practice of having a call name that they would be known on in records rather than their first name. So you might be looking for their middle name on these records. So that's the first step. Just make sure you kind of know any variations of the name that your ancestor has. And then the next step is to identify the correct county. So you will want to get down to the township level if possible. And you can do that by finding them. You find them in later records, and you're usually working backwards through time to try and get earlier and earlier records. So, as we talked about before, you need to know about boundary changes. So, use the Family Search Research Wiki and also the Newberry Atlas of Historical Boundaries to learn about the boundary changes to identify what county your ancestors' land records might be held in. So that's the first part. And then you're going to want to first access the warrant registers. So the warrant registers are available at the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission, and it's kind of the master index for warrants, surveys, and patents. And it's really cool because these registers, they include a lot of information. They give you the number of the warrant and the name of the warrantee and the type of warrant. And then it talks about the quantity of land and the location, the date of the warrant. And then it also gives you the date of the return of the survey and the name of the patentee, the acres returned. It'll give you the patent volume number and page and the survey volume and page. So that warrant register is what you're going to use to be able to find all of the pertinent records for your ancestor.
How nice that that will be all combined into one place. And it sounds like Pennsylvania has a lot of really great resources. So this one is from the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission. Wow, that's like amazing that they have this all put together. I wish that some other states had something like that.
Yes, if you have Pennsylvania ancestors, you're lucky. It's fun to research in Pennsylvania.
Yes, and I am just listening to this and thinking it's so different in every state. And so this is great. Can you walk us through an example?
I found a baptism record that's in the Wright Township in the same church where Jacob Fisher's children got baptized. So I'm thinking, since the dates match and the places match, it's likely that this is the same Jacob Fisher. And it names his parents. His parents were Adam Fisher and Magdalena was his mom's name. So I am just trying to find the time to do a little extra research on this family. But I just wanted to find out more about an Adam Fisher because Jacob was born in 1761. I hypothesized that maybe Jacob's father, Adam, was the first Pennsylvania German to come. I don't know if that's true or not yet, but I was interested in just finding some records. So we talked about last time the ship lists, passenger lists. And so I did find a Georg Adam Fisher who arrived in Pennsylvania on the ship Isaac in 1749. And again, spelling variations. We have a lot of times Fisher is spelled Fisher, and a lot of times Fischer. So either of those would work. And he could have been known in other records by his call name Adam instead of the Georg Adam. So I just kept that in mind. And then as I talked about, I knew that the family had lived in Whitehall Township in Northampton County. And so that's in Lehigh County today. It wasn't formed until 1812. So I went to Northampton County, which is the parent county. And then I wanted to look in the warrant registers for Northampton County. So for the warrant registers, you can go and look in the books, and they're organized pretty well at the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission. They have the surnames, and then there's several pages for each surname. And you can search that way, and it's kind of a browse thing, but they're organized really well. But you also, if you have an Ancestry account, they do have a collection called Pennsylvania Land Warrants, 1733 to 1987. And you can do a name search there, and that'll quickly tell you if a warrant exists for your ancestor and what book it is in. So that makes it a little bit quicker. So I went ahead and did that. And that database doesn't include the images. So you will have to then take the next step to go back to the PHMC website and get the complete information. So I found an entry for Adam Fisher, and it says he received a warrant for 25 acres in Macungie Township on the 15th of February, 1759. So that is a township in Northampton County. It's not the township where the children were baptized, but I'm still interested in learning more about this Adam Fisher.
Wow, that's great. There's so much information you can find on those land records, and that warrant register is super exciting to be able to find someone there.
Yeah, it's great to use all those tricks to try and find what you're looking for.
All right. Well, it looks like that warrant register provides a lot of helpful information. So, what is the next step after finding the warrant?
So, as I talked about, you're going to want to find the genealogically significant documents. So, the next one that you want to find is your survey. So, on the warrant register, it gives you the book number and page for the survey. And the surveys have been digitized also by the Pennsylvania State Archives, and they're at that Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission website. That's the online presence for the state archives. So you just choose your county of interest and then locate the book and go to the correct page that was given to you in the register. So for Adam Fisher, I learned in the warrant register that the actual acreage measured by the survey was a little over 64 acres. And then the final patent was issued on the 23rd of February, 1797, not to Adam Fisher, but to John Meyer. And then it said a copy of the survey can be found in book C64, page 235. So I navigated to that book in the survey books, and that gave me a copy of the survey. And the surveys are really cool because it does have a plat map, and it shows the owners of the neighboring properties. And so those owners are part of the fan club that I can then research. So the surveys are really cool. It's interesting that he didn't get the final patent, and it kind of goes along with the family history. I don't know. Adam Fisher could have died, but this family did migrate to Westmoreland County in western Pennsylvania around 1800. So I'm just curious. Again, I haven't found the answers to this problem, but I'm curious whether they decided to move elsewhere, and that's why he sold the rights to the property to someone else.
Right. And you also wonder, like, maybe were they just planning to do that all along and it was just an
Yeah.
investment?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, how can you find this land patent?
Yeah, the patents are at Family Search. And so the easiest way to find them is to go to Family Search to the catalog. And then in the place search, just put Pennsylvania land. And then you'll just scroll down to the collection patent books 1676 to 1960. And if you go to my blog post about this, I have a direct link to that collection because there are a lot of records for Pennsylvania, and you do have to scroll down through several pages to find that. So if you want to find it quickly, just go to the blog post and click on the link. So then you just go back to the warrant register, the information you got from the warrant register, because it tells you the patent book and page. So it said Adam Fisher's the patent for that land was in volume P31, page 327. So you just scroll down to that volume and navigate to the correct page. And the patent's fun. It was written out in, long, it's just a document that's all written out. And it says that Adam Fisher paid the proprietors at the granting of the warrant, and that John Meyer was now paying at the Receiver General's office. And it gave the name of the tract of land as Harmony, located in Macungie Township. And it gives a property description, and that names the neighbors again: Peter Hamill, George Huffman, Leonard Heininger, Henry Hawk, and Jacob Meyer. So again, good people to add to your fan club. And it states that the tract was surveyed in pursuance of a warrant dated 15th of February, 1759, granted to the said Adam Fisher. And then Adam Fisher gave his rights to the tract by diverse conveyances and assurances in the law and became vested in the said John Meyer with the appurtenances. So, anyway, just a good land record that talks about what happened to the land. So, that's really interesting to get all those names of different people that might have been associated with my ancestor.
And that is exactly why we say look at the land, because it gives you those friends, associates, and neighbors. And you never know when you need one of those to help you track your ancestor back to another county or even back to Germany. That's really great. Thanks for taking us through that land patent and seeing how to finally get that last bit of the land records.
So once we have found the entry in the warrant register, the survey, and the patent, what are we missing?
So the last thing that you'll be able to find is the land application itself. So that's really the first thing that was created, but in the process of finding all the records, it's probably the last thing that you'll look for because you need all the information that you've gotten to be able to get to it. So the first thing that you do for this one is to go to Ancestry's database called Pennsylvania Land Warrants and Applications. And if you don't find the application there, Family Search also has the images and you have to browse them. But there's two collections at Family Search. One's called Application for Warrants, 1755 to 1866. And the other one is Applications for Warrants, 1734 to 1865. So they have a lot of records there. And the applications are arranged chronologically first by year and then alphabetically within each year. So that's how you would go about finding that, is to find the year that the application was submitted, which you learned from the warrant register and from the patent. And then you'll just go alphabetically until you find your ancestor. So Adam Fisher's application states he was requesting land adjoining William Fiegel and Christian Heisler, and you can check back and see if things match or what might have happened with the neighboring properties too. There's just a lot of information that you can use as you're researching. So I hope that this has given you a good overview of what records are available for this process of obtaining that first title to the land and how to go about finding them. You know, you have to jump around a little bit, but every document has information that will help you. So it's really worthwhile to go take the necessary steps to find each of those records.
Right. It's really rewarding to find all of those and to get the application.
Yeah.
How can we locate deed records for persons who acquired their land from an original landowner? So didn't go through that process. They got it from somebody else.
Yeah, so, we had people who originally owned the land, but then maybe they wanted to sell the land and move elsewhere. So the first title was the original owners, and then you have deeds, just like in any other state. When land gets sold from one person to another rather than from the government or proprietorship to another, you have a deed. So it's essential to be able to discover those deeds that are created. These are really valuable records. I know you've talked about land records and their value on your podcast and in lots of different places, but sometimes, like Diana said, sometimes people forget to find the land records, but they really are valuable because you can find family names and relationships. In a lot of deeds, you'll be able to get the first name of the wife, or the first deed in a new place might mention where the person lived before, so that can help you trace migration. The deed for their previous property might tell the new location of their residence. They can give the names of adjacent property owners, and I've seen where they tell the name of the person who received the original patent for the land. And so that can help you trace the land back and learn more about what happened to the land and where it came from. And land was often given to soldiers or widows for military service. So that's another clue that you can gain from land records. So they're really valuable and important to start looking for these deeds and land records.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the legal portions of a land deed. So, what are some of the things that just had to be included there, and what can we expect to find?
So you're going to find the similar things on land deeds, no matter where they're from. You're going to have the date of the sale and the date it was recorded. And remember that deeds can get recorded many years after the land was actually sold, the transaction actually took place. So that's something to think about. You'll find the names of the grantor or seller and the grantee or the buyer, and different clauses that specify what's being transferred and how much money is being exchanged. It'll also give you a property description. Sometimes it'll tell how the seller got the land. And then there's a warranty section stating how the seller will be liable to the buyer in case there are problems later. And then just at the end, you'll have your execution section that has the acknowledgments and seals and signatures. will look really similar to any land record any deed that you've found for other ancestors.
Well, that is great to know.
So, what's the best way to locate some of these deeds in Pennsylvania?
So Pennsylvania deeds are at Family Search, and they have a really great collection, but they're not indexed. And so that's a little intimidating, and that may be why sometimes people don't go to the trouble of finding them. But if you know the process, then you're going to be able to find them. So the first step that you do is go to the Family Search catalog and then do a subject search for Pennsylvania land. And then all the land records will pop up in alphabetical order by county. So you'll just scroll down to the county that you're interested in looking at, and then you'll click on that county, and then it will have a bunch of different record sets within each county. And so you're looking for the deeds. So my Pennsylvania German ancestors migrated, like I said, to Westmoreland County from Northampton County. So when I go to the Family Search catalog in Westmoreland County, there's a collection that's titled Deeds 1773 to 1886, and there's an index. And so I can click on that and access the indexes and also 140 deed books.
Okay, so when you say that they're not indexed, you mean like Family Search doesn't have a searchable database that you can type in the name.
Yeah.
But when you
Yep,
get
that's
to
right.
the actual deed books, they do have those indexes that are within the deeds.
Yeah, so the county usually has created an index for their deed books. And so you'll start with the indexes. So you'll want to consult both the grantor and the grantee indexes because you'll want to know and find any property transactions where your ancestor was selling the land and transactions where your ancestor was buying the land. So you'll go ahead and check both of those indexes. And the indexes can be a little bit tricky. So every county kind of organizes their indexes in different ways. And this is sometimes the part that really trips me up. It has in the past anyway. I've learned you just have to do a lot of trial and error to figure out how they've organized the key. So there's a few different ways I've seen. Like sometimes the index is just organized by surname, and you can just find the first letter of the surname or maybe the first two letters of the surname, and it'll tell you at the beginning of the index in the key that okay, the ones that start with FI for Fisher are on this page. So you just go to that page and start looking. Other types I've seen, sometimes it'll have the index will be divided into sections, and there's a tab for the first letters of the surname, and then you just go to that tab, and then within that tab there's a table at the top that represents the first letter of the first name, and it'll tell you what page those first names start. So you would go for Jacob Fisher, you would go to the F section, and then at the top there would be a table, and you would look for J to see what section the J's were on, and then navigate to that page of the index. There are just a lot of different kinds of indexes, so you have to just dive into it and see, okay, what way is this organized?
Right? I once had a lecture that I attended about this. I think it was by Mary Kircher-Roddy, and she talked about all the different types of indexing systems, and I was surprised there were so many. But yeah, it can be confusing, and you can even probably look up the type of the index and get a little summary of how it works online somewhere.
Yeah, the Family Search Wiki has some of them, which is a great place, or just Google it. And I think the problem is sometimes they're not named, and so you don't really know how to Google anything, you
You
know?
don't know what you don't know. Like, what am I looking at here?
Yep.
I have no idea.
Yeah, so often you get into the microfilm and you're looking at it wondering what in the world was the person thinking with the way they indexed it because it makes no sense whatsoever. And then you finally figure it out. You're like, okay, there was some sense to it, but it is always tricky. Well, is there one that's particularly challenging that you've worked with?
Yeah, I really was confused for a while about this one, and this is what they used in Westmoreland County, so I had to figure it out. So I can just walk you through the process a little bit. So the Westmoreland County indexes are arranged by surname. So you're first going to select the volume that has the first letter of the last name of your ancestor. So in this example, I used Daniel Beck. So I wanted to find the grantor deeds for him. So I went to the grantor index, surnames A through C, because I was looking for Beck. So A through C would include B. And there might be several volumes on each microfilm reel. So you need to use that little browse multiple images button to look at the whole reel and see if you can see the beginning and end of the different books so that you make sure you don't miss it. So this film had several volumes on it. So it had book A first, and the second book was book B, and then it was divided by given names. So book B, A through J. So that was right because I was looking for Daniel Beck. So he would have been in the A through J given name book. So I found the right book for the index. And then the Russell Key index is pasted on the inside of the front of the book. And so what you do with the Russell Key index is you have to look at the first key letter following the initial or first letter in the family name. So you have the family name Beck, and you need to know what the first key letter is. And there are key letters listed at the top of the page. And I don't remember right offhand what those key letters are. But whatever the first key letter is, then you would look in that section number and it'll tell you where in the book that name is indexed. So Beck actually didn't have a key letter. There were no key letters in Beck. And so I went to the miscellaneous column. And then you have to look at the first letter of the first name. So I followed D over into miscellaneous. So I was kind of corresponding D with miscellaneous, and that gave me section 46 for his name. So that's a long process just to find the page where his deeds are going to be indexed.
Wow, that is crazy to find all that.
And the thing to remember with this, it's not page numbers, although they're organized in numerical order. It's section 46. It's not page 46. So you can't just go and find 46 and see, oh, Daniel Beck's not on that page, so he's not there. You have to make sure you're looking at every page that has that 46 stamped on the top. You can kind of jump around in the book until you can narrow down to the correct section, and then make sure you go backward to get the beginning, and then work through every page in that section.
After you find the deed in the index, then what is the next step?
Okay, so you're just in the index right now, and so you have found entries for your ancestor, hopefully. You found entries for them. And so the next thing that you're going to want to do is to go to the actual deed book. But just before you do that, remember the long process you went to find this in the index in the first place. And so I always add a link in my research log to that page in the index so that I can just click right back to it. And then I write notes in my research log about who's on what page, just the name and the volume and page number so that I don't have to keep jumping back and forth to the index. I just can look at my research log and then I can navigate to the right books for the deeds. So I had several listings for my Daniel Beck, and it just told me the volume and page number. So you just go back to that Westmoreland County Land Records page and find the deed books in the correct volume. And then you can just navigate through the book until you get to the right page. You just need to remember that there's usually 2 pages per image. And so you can estimate if it's on page 200, maybe you want to go around image 100, just those tricks that you do to navigate through the browse only images. And so I found several deeds for my Daniel Beck, and just remember that they might not have been recorded right when the transaction took place. So I looked several years after Daniel Beck died, and I was able to find some really pertinent deeds. There must have been 2 Daniel Becks because one was married to a woman named Elizabeth when I know that my Daniel was married to a woman named Hannah. So you have to use all of your tools as a genealogist to decipher whether this is your person. But I found a lot of deeds that were associated with Daniel's land distribution after he died. He didn't have a will, he died intestate. Then I found a couple of deeds in the grantee index that detailed when and how he purchased that same land earlier in his life. So I think deeds are just really important. I always look for land records because you never know what you're going to find. In these deeds, I was able to confirm a hypothesis that I had that Daniel's daughter, Catherine, had died between 1860 and 1870. She was on the 1860 census and then wasn't there in 1870. And a deed that was dated in 1870 stated that Leonard Beck, who was Daniel's oldest son, had been appointed a guardian of Emma Weaver and Sarah Weaver, children of Daniel's deceased daughter, Catherine. So you never know. You're not going to find just records about land transactions, you might find records about all kinds of different things in land records. So I would always find the land records for your ancestors.
Well, that is wonderful advice because you do never know what you're going to find, and we want to just track down all the records. So, thanks so much for leading us through a lot of great details. And the blog post also contains so many good details on land records, including links. And, if your head is spinning, so much to do.
Yeah, it's worth the time and effort to learn how to find them and then carefully read them so you can mine all those clues and get lots of good directions to go in your research project.
Well, thank you, Alice, for walking us through the process of finding deeds and land applications for ancestors in Pennsylvania. Next week, we'll get to talk with you about church records and probate records, which are huge, especially church records for Pennsylvania Germans.
Yes, I'm excited. It will be fun to talk about those.
Well, great. Thanks, everybody. And we'll talk to you guys again next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening. We hope that something you heard today will help you make progress in your research. If you want to learn more, purchase our books, Research Like a Pro and Research Like a Pro with DNA on Amazon.com and other booksellers. You can also register for our online courses or study groups of the same names. Learn more at familylocket.com/services. To share your progress and ask questions, join our private Facebook group by sending us your book receipt or joining our courses. To get updates in your email inbox each Monday, subscribe to our newsletter at familylocket.com/newsletter. Please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. We read each review and are so thankful for them. We hope you'll start now to research like a pro.